Crash and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I want to discuss Green Day's sort of massive 1994 album, Dookie. And it's funny, the reason that I felt compelled to make this video is because earlier I was talking about Green Day with a couple people that I knew. And when we got to the point where we were discussing how it all started back when we were kids in high school with this record, none of us could really think of anything good to say about the songs on here outside of the singles, which are absolutely amazing. Like Longview, Basket Case, and the re-recording of Welcome to Paradise, because technically that isn't a new song, that didn't really belong on here. That was released on Kerplunk. And When I Come Around, it just feels like the rest of this record is so disposable. And then whenever I find anybody discussing it online, they all use the word masterpiece. And I just don't agree with that. This record, outside of the singles, all the songs sound the same. Like Burnout, for example, the album opener. It's so anticlimactic. It's such a... It has no energy. It has no identity. It's like it has no purpose. It just plods along. And it just doesn't go anywhere. And we'll say that's accurate, because other than the singles, like the songs like Sassafras Roots and She and In the End and Enemy of Sleepus, they all sound the same. Those songs just are there to create a full-length album. Those songs have, there's nothing good to say about any of them other than they all sound like each other. It's like outside of like every so often when Longview will kick in, because Longview is amazing. And then it's like, oh, She kicks in, and it sounds sort of like some half-assed song that Gob would churn out, and it wouldn't be the best work from Gob, because I really like Gob. Like Too Late, No Friends, that record is amazing. But then it's like, and then Welcome to Paradise kicks in, and it's like, oh my God, we're back again, and this record kicks ass. But then like Having a Blast, and then Chump, and it's like they don't have any fingerprints of their own. They don't have anything going for them. It's like they're just nothing. It's like a whole lot of nothing. And it seems like whenever I discuss this record with anybody, like in reality, we all feel the same way, that this record wasn't much of anything. But then whenever I find myself I tossed this record on earlier, I had it on playing through YouTube, and I was reading through the comments for each song because I had a playlist going, and everybody said each song on here is flawless. And I just get the vibe that that's more performative, because I just don't understand how anybody could rep really hard for like FOD or In the End. In the End just sounds like, well, actually everything on here kind of sounds like just like a lot of Chicks Dig It, sort of MXPX. Everything just kind of sounds the same. Like every record MXPX was releasing at this point sounded identical to everything else they were releasing. And the same thing with Chicks Dig It. And that's the vibe I get from this. It just sort of feels like Green Day just didn't put the effort in. It feels like the singles feel focused, they feel driven, the band seems committed, the band seems like their playing is on fire, and they're in the moment, and they're living for those songs. But then everything else, like Pulling Teeth, for example. Pulling Teeth sounds like a bad Tragically Hip or 5440 song. I mean, it just feels like outside of the singles, every song on here was everything that was wrong with like radio rock at this point in the 90s. And as much as I do love When I Come Around, because that is a great song, back in high school, that was the song that all the jocks would put on a lot when they wanted to go around saying they were punk. And considering that the jocks were all fucking giants, you couldn't tell them that they weren't, because they would stomp you to death. So I do kind of have some really bad memories about that song. Like that song was a sports bar darling. Like, fuck, man, that song played in like every sports bar I ever came near at that point. Now, granted, I didn't get into any of these sports bars because I was way too young, and I'm not really into sports anyways. But that's what that song reminds me of, is a bunch of fucking football players going, I'm punk today because I like, When I Come, that song, Around or whatever from Green Day. I'm punk now. And again, you couldn't say anything because they would kill you. And now I know that's more of like a personal thing, so I shouldn't even really bring that up, but I did. I mean, this record was always like for the Smashing Pumpkin kids. Like the Smashing Pumpkin kids wanted to feel punk. They listened to Dookie, Whereas like the rest of us were listening to like the Offspring Smash. Like this Offspring Smash fucking annihilates this record. The Offspring Smash, I still wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but it's a hell of a lot closer to being a masterpiece than this is. This record is a really strong EP with a whole bunch of shitty sounding B-sides tossed in. That's how I've always seen this album. I don't even like the album artwork. It gets on my nerves too. And I mean, I don't know. It just feels like more performative than it feels vital. And I know that the guys in Green Day, they came up through the same places like Gilman Street and shit, like with the guys in Rancid, for example. Like Billy Joe and company were at like Operation Ivy shows. So I know the guys in the band are legit, but it just seems like their songwriting focus was more about making money. Whereas the guys in Rancid, it was never about that. Now, the guys in Rancid, they did really well financially speaking, too. I mean, I know Tim's worth like $10 to $12 million, and Lars is worth roughly the same, too. Billy Joe Armstrong, on the other hand, is worth roughly $75 million. And then that sort of springboards me into thinking about their current ticket prices, which Rancid is, of course, guilty of, too, because they're opening for Green Day on their current tour. The average ticket prices range between $300 to $800, all the way up to $8,000 a piece if you get like a VIP package. And that's just not punk. And I'm not saying it like I'm some punk rock gatekeeper. I don't give a fuck. I'm not punk. Never been punk. Back in high school, I thought I was punk, but no, I wasn't. And so it just feels really needlessly greedy to be charging $8,000 for the privilege of getting to shake a 60-year-old fucking man's hand. Technically, they're not 60, they're in their early 50s. But nevertheless, these old dudes who are trying so desperately to cling on to whatever's left of their fame, it just seems like Green Day will attach themselves to any social cause that's relevant or any political cause that's relevant. Like if it's relevant to bash Trump, they'll bash Trump. If it's relevant to stand up for some social cause, they'll stand up for that social cause. And it just feels phony, forced, and fake, much like this record. This record isn't much of anything. Now, I know I'm probably alone in the world on this one because, again, the internet seems to unify in saying that this record is a masterpiece, but it's not. This record is awful. I mean, the rest of the songs on here, they just come and go. But I love Longview. I love Basket Case. And Welcome to Paradise, the re-recording, is a decent updating, and I do like the production on this better than on Kerplunk, but Kerplunk, they had like $0. So, what can you do, right? But look, I'm going to leave it there because I've probably already dug a big enough hole for myself by saying that all the songs sound like MXPX or Chicks Dig It, because they do. Or Rejected, Tragically Hip, or 5440, maybe. It's true. It's true. Pulling Teeth sounds exactly like a Rejected, Tragically Hip, or 5440 song. But anyways, that is it. I'm getting out of here. So like always, thank you so much for hanging out with me for, wow, a little over 8 minutes while I discussed Green Day's massively successful, yet completely shitty 1994 album, and that is Dookie. Like always, if you like this review, don't forget to go and do something nice for somebody. It's simple. Hold a door. Or give $1 to charity the next time you're at Walmart. But most importantly, regardless how you feel about me talking about this record, or regardless of how you feel about this record, you need to know that the world is actually a way better place because you are in it. You guys are amazing. And I'm getting out of here because I'm starting to get hot. Have a good night.